Hello, Maya.
Maya, gang, how are you all doing? It's so good to see all of you again, right?
It's great, and I can't believe how much time has passed already since the summit. It
It
feels like forever and yet yesterday.
Yes, we miss you, and we hope that everything is great back in your neck of the woods for sure.
So this video is all about how do you fill out a project proposal. It's something that could feel potentially intimidating, but really doesn't need to be. It's
Right.
things that we're already talking about at the summit. You're talking about since with your teams and your debrief. And really, this is just a way of bringing it all together, focused on what is your project proposal.
Absolutely, and hopefully this proposal really helps you to begin to synthesize what you're doing and articulate what exactly you're doing with your project. And there's plenty of room yet to continue to morph it, but this is just a really important moment in the project where we really want you to give this some attention.
Absolutely. And so in this project proposal, you can ask for funds or you don't have to. Either way, we want you to fill it out because it's important to plan out these practice experiments.
So should I fill this out, Caleb?
Well, not you in particular, but
Yes.
if you were a point leader, absolutely.
Everyone should fill it out.
Regardless of whether you need funds.
Good,
So,
okay.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share a screen to kind of walk you through this project proposal.
Yep.
So here you have all the introductory information. Steve, when is this due?
This is due, Caleb, April 30th.
April 30th.
April 30th.
Hope you have that in your mind to get it in by April 30th. You're actually going to have a deadline to turn it in to your coach by April 12th, and that'll allow them to give you some feedback. You can make some adjustments where needed, and then turn in your final draft to Canvas on April 30th.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
that sounds like it's coming up really quickly, but really, I don't think this proposal is actually going to take you a long time to do. You'll need some focus, and so you want to make time for that, but sort of back into what you need to do between now and April 12th to get that to your coach. Your coach will turn around and give you some feedback, and you'll have no problem getting this in by April 30th. It'll really set you up then for the rest of your planning and work that you're doing.
Absolutely. All right, so moving all right along, please type all your answers. It helps us read your proposal. Have a working title of what your experiment might be, as well as, clearly stating if you're focusing on belonging and hospitality or whatever. And then we want your innovative experiment summary, which should look awfully familiar because we're breaking it up between your current flawed narratives, the practice, and the Jesus-centered narrative. And so one thing I want to say about the practice is that we really want to be able to picture what you're doing. So if you're talking about testimony, but just on a high level, we're going to practice testimony with our youth, that doesn't actually tell us, well, what does that look like?
Exactly.
Right? So we really want you to make sure you really fill in. If we sent this to somebody random, could they picture exactly what you envision your young people participating in?
I think it's a great example, Caleb, of what we're trying to do there. And this does look familiar, and there may be the temptation for you to take the work that you did at the summit and just sort of copy over what you had there. And there's perhaps some of it that you can, but we're really hoping that by now you've talked with your other team leaders, maybe some leadership, a discernment team, people that you've entrusted and have relayed this project to, and you've probably nuanced these things a little bit. You probably can speak more particularly about these narratives and about the practice. And so the fruit of your work, we hope, will show up here. And we think that that's going to just help you articulate your project even more as well.
Absolutely. So continuing along, one of the things we really want you to do is think about how can you be listening throughout your project implementation. So a temptation is okay, we came up with a plan and this is what we're going to do.
Right.
But what we need to be able to do is, how are we punctuating this process with opportunities to listen and learn so we can make course corrections along the way?
Absolutely. And that's an assumption that we have, is that you'll probably make course corrections as you try and walk this experiment out, as you talk with different people in your community. You might realize that actually what you want to do is go a slightly different direction. And so these feedback loops really ensure that you're getting feedback from those that you're choosing to serve and those that you're working with.
Right, exactly. So continuing along, on step 3, we're asking you to fill in the details of your innovation project team. So in your innovation project team, we need you to state the names, the roles at the church or outside the church that this person fulfills, what their role on the project is, as well as what you envision them doing. And this would help us know, okay, who is your team? Who are you working with? Have you asked them already, or are they on board, or do you still have yet to ask them? So it helps us know where you're at in the process.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting to us because a lot of times churches have some really unique teams of who they bring on, the roles that they play. So we really learn a lot even from this basic list.
Absolutely. All right. anticipated challenges. This is an important one. Steve, do you want to say a little bit about this one?
Yeah, there will be challenges.
Yes.
If you're thinking like this is going to be perfect, it's not. I don't think any team that has done this cohort in the past has ever not had a challenge.
Right, because we're doing it with real people.
With
right?
real people in real life.
Right.
And so, I think we want to give you a chance to actually anticipate the fact that there probably will be some challenges along the way, which is completely fine. This is what it's all about. So in your planning, if we can anticipate challenges, maybe we can pad our planning a little bit and not have such a tight schedule that there's not room for that. In particular, there's like certain types of challenges. And Caleb, I think you've detailed some great ones here.
Yeah, so we want you to think about through 3 different lenses. So one's organizational, the other's relational, the other's cultural. And this, we have challenges coming from all these different directions.
Right.
If we only look through one lens, we can actually miss some challenges that we might have otherwise anticipated. So consider these 3 lenses as you think about the challenges that you might come up against, but also we want you to explain what is your plan to address those things.
Yeah, I think that'll be really helpful.
All right, step 5, experiment implementation timeline.
Yes, timelines.
Woohoo! Yay! All right, so the reason why we want you to do this is because the more you map out, the more deadlines you set for yourself, the more this is likely to succeed.
Yeah.
It's really easy. We all know it's really easy in ministry to be going through all of these different events and different agendas and programs and all these different things. It can be easy to get our eye off the ball.
Yeah.
And so this is helpful to keep this in the center of your focus and your schedule, even if it's not the main thing you're doing day in, day out.
Absolutely. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you think summer you're going to have all this time to work on things, and then all of a sudden the summer goes so fast, and then the fall is upon you. And we really want to save you from that panic. And so, what we've mapped out here for you is for you to just be as specific as you can with each of these months. Now, there's just certain things you're not going to know, and that's okay. But there are some things that you actually can do. For instance, maybe in May, if you're saying we're going to have a team meeting, why not take the time to actually plan that meeting and put down the exact date and time that you're going to have? You're going to have to do it eventually.
Right.
This just gives you a chance to map out as much as you can before the fall comes. We just think you're going to have a better level of success if you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. When we kind of have rocks in our schedule along the way, it actually forces us to keep up with things.
Absolutely.
If I'm having a meeting with Steve, I'm like, I should probably have something to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. So you're going to fill that out. And when you get to the end here, you'll see, okay, we're ending in December 2019, but there's also this section that says thereafter. We're hoping that even though we're focusing on 10 weeks for the sake of this project and this experiment, it's a space for us to learn in, that as you're walking out this practice for at least 10 weeks. We also hope that what might this look like beyond the 10 weeks, right? So if this is truly going to be ongoing, 10 weeks by itself isn't ongoing,
Absolutely.
right? And so if you can envision what might your hopes for the eventual evolutions of the practice might be, we want you to fill that in there.
Absolutely. You might remember from the summit, we asked the question, well, what's the dream? Right? What might this look like if we kept doing it? And I think this gives you a chance to think beyond the experiment to what this might look like in your context.
Absolutely. And then we talked about, the scaffolding for this bridge, this practice bridge. What makes this bridge stronger? And we've noticed in past projects, ones that were particularly successful had these 5 characteristics. It was participatory. Young adults were actually engaged in the practice. They weren't passive recipients of a practice. It was ongoing. It had this formative, habit-forming nature to it. It was personal and communal. So it's something I could practice and internalize on my own, but it's also something I practice with other people. And then it's incremental, right? So it's a sense of that we're growing in these practices, that you don't start out bench pressing 500 pounds, unless you're Steve. But you start smaller and you build up, you grow your muscles in these practices. And so it doesn't always mean it's going to be growing in time or length. It might just be in the depth or in different things like that. So think about incremental in different ways, but how are you growing people into this practice?
I think that's great. You've seen these before, so that's great.
No surprises. So then here we have our MIYA grant budget proposal. So if you are indeed asking for funds, you don't have to, but if you think, this would actually make this practice that much richer and enable us to do things we wouldn't otherwise do, we want to ask you to apply for funds. So on the left-hand side here on the budget category, we've suggested some categories. You can also fill in other for additional categories that we maybe had not thought of. And we want you to describe, how does it relate to this practice experiment? It really does need to relate to this practice experiment. If you've just been hoping to go on a retreat with your staff, this isn't really the space to use the funds for, but it's about, we want to know, how are you using these funds to empower your project.
Absolutely. You know, one of the ways that Caleb and I talk about it is, I mean, you may have a great idea with your experiment, but then you're thinking, man, if we only had a little bit of funds, we could take this further. We could do this extra thing. This would make the experiment even better, right? So we really hope that maybe it inspires your creativity to use these funds in that sort of way. So we just would love for you to use them and in creative ways that really amplify the experiment that you're working on.
Right. And so as you're thinking about this, you might wonder, well, how much can we ask for? So we have two different tiers, and that's just because we have some people that are returning for a second year.
Right.
And we want to offer them just a little bit more so they can ask for up to $3,000 for this project. And then if this is your first year as a part of MIYA, you can ask for $2,500.
Right.
And really these funds are to help get things off the ground, right?
Yep.
So when we do something new, sometimes we need some seed money,
Yep.
but it's also helpful to think, once this money is gone, what might be a sustainable way to keep this project going beyond having those funds? And then finally, we want to know, who could we contact at the church if we have questions about funds, as well as a further explanation, so we really know, okay, this is how it relates to the project.
Yep. That's going to be helpful even for you to articulate that. And I think we've learned from other churches that articulating that really helps them think about, well, how are we going to use these funds and how are we make sure that they're categorized for that? So we are so excited, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is really a huge moment in the cohort where you're taking everything you've learned from the pre-summit work, summit work, your debriefs, your planning, and you're bringing it all into one place, and it's really setting the trajectory for the next several months.
Absolutely. And we're here for you. Your coaches are here for you. Absolutely. If they need to contact you, Caleb, what's the best email?
Yeah, so email us at MIYA@fuller.edu. And that would probably be if you have a more logistical question. If you have some questions about, how should I answer this question, or a question about this challenge I want to type out, that would be a good question to ask your coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't wait to read them. This is a really inspiring time. So thanks in advance for the work that you're going to do and for taking this next step. We're in it with you, and we're so honored to be in this process and this exciting project.
Take care.
Bye.